Moose are huge animals. They tower over passenger vehicles. In a collision, a 1,000-pound moose, antlers and all, can crash across your hood, through your windshield, and into the face of driver and passengers.
She was coming back from Fredericton. She had registered for St. Thomas University and she had just gone up to rent her apartment, and she was on her way home.
My daughter was traveling back to the base to go to work for the next morning. It was a Thursday night.
And they were always going to come home for a Thanksgiving weekend. I was hoping they'd be off the road before dark. But we got word of the accident around 9:15.
It was a fence because I wanted to show to the people that drove by that this is where an accident happened that could have been prevented if there'd been fencing.
Just one day we had another accident and our groupers got together and said there's got to be something that can be done.
Good highways often bisect some of the best moose range. The highways are just another impediment to get to the other side where there might be better food or there might be a female or a male for mating purposes. And we're just down in the ditch beside the highway, and as you look off to my right, you can see a small marsh area, very active moose area. In fact, fresh tracks here this morning. This is a typical crossing area where you're likely to see moose.
And then I know for a fact that since Carrie's accident, just in that stretch, there have been over 9 moose killed from other accidents.
That's 9 moose in just over 90 days.
Very heavy here in the north. We mostly see 2 or 3 accidents per month, I would say. Just last Monday, there were a couple from Quebec hit a moose on the road with their van.
If we are going to put a highway alignment through moose range, then we should take precautions to protect the moose and protect the people that are driving along the highway as best we can.
Seeing the number of people that have lost their lives since our daughter lost her life, and the number of accidents that I've seen in the last few years, I strongly believe that fencing is the only way to make our highways a lot more safer.
Oh, I want a fence. I definitely want a fence, but we have to let the moose cross.
I want fencing in the hot spots and some sort of passageway for the moose so that they, and the other wildlife, so that they can live a safe life too.
Traditionally, you can fence a highway, keep the animals off the roadway, and make it safe. In this day and age, though, we're very concerned about what we call wildlife permeability, getting animals across the roadway as well.
A fencing system that reduces moose vehicle collisions depends on 3 things. First, the fence must keep moose off the road. Second, the fencing system must provide crossings that moose will use in reasonable numbers and in relative safety. Third, the fencing system must be affordable. If the fencing system costs too much, government may decide it can afford to fence only a few hotspots, and fencing a few hotspots does not solve the problem. The Department of Transportation has designated 300 kilometers of highway in New Brunswick in the category of highest hazard for moose collisions. New Brunswick needs an affordable fencing system so it can protect drivers wherever there is a serious threat of moose vehicle collisions within the province. Moose fence is expensive. According to the State of Alaska Moose Research Center, moose easily walk through standard steel wire fencing. Posts for moose fencing must be extra strong to stand up to the force of a charging bull moose. Banff Park uses 6-inch diameter, 12-foot long timber posts, spaced 16 feet apart and driven 3 to 4 feet in the ground. Alaska Department of Transportation uses 12-foot long, 2 7/8-inch diameter steel posts embedded in concrete footings. Moose habitat in New Brunswick is generally very rocky. The cost to install barrier fence posts and steel wire fencing in this rugged terrain is almost cost prohibitive. Steel wildlife fencing damaged by falling trees or vandals or weighted down by snow and ice is expensive to maintain and expensive to repair.
The traditional wildlife fence is running about $50 a foot. So it's very, very cost costly to build this fence. The electrobraid provides a cost-effective alternative to that, and it appears that it's going to hold up very well and be a low-maintenance alternative to stouter-type fencing.
Retrofitting a moose underpass under an existing highway is another critical cost. Banff National Park has been monitoring animals crossing the Trans-Canada Highway for more than 10 years. Banff reports that moose much prefer overpasses that are 50 meters wide. Moose will, however, use a highway underpass if it is an open bridge at least 12 meters wide and 4.5 meters high. That's 40 feet wide by 15 feet high. Expensive? Yes. The cost for a moose underpass that has to be retrofitted under an existing two-lane highway is typically about $1 million. Scientists say moose will not walk far to find a place to cross the highway. That means 30 to 50 planned moose crossings could be required if we fence 300 kilometers of road. That's a huge cost to the taxpayer. Fortunately, 6 years ago, the New Brunswick Department of Transportation had the foresight to lead the way to develop a cost-effective system to reduce moose vehicle collisions. In 2000, the province installed electrobraid fence along 5 kilometers of hazardous highway near Beldoon.
This area was selected as our best hotspot at the time in that area. And it was fenced 5 kilometers on both sides of the highway.
When I first looked at it, I was amazed from what I saw. It didn't look like it would deter a moose from crossing the highway at all.
If you look at this fence and look at the size of a moose, and you think, you know, how would this ever keep a moose off the highway?
After we started seeing the results from it within 2 or 3 months, then I became a firm believer in it.
And the moose are still here because we're getting sightings. People are calling and saying they're seeing them. They're seeing them behind the fence. It's just that the fence is actually keeping them off the highway.
Since electrobraid was installed, drivers have called a listed phone number whenever they saw a moose beside the road. In the first 5 years, drivers reported sighting 622 moose inside 2 unfenced control zones, compared to 14 moose sighted inside the electrobraid fence. That's a potential 98% reduction in moose vehicle collisions. 6 years of testing has proven that electrobraid works.
It's the electrical jolt that they get. They don't like that jolt, and they respect the fence. They want to stay away from it.
They sure do. Moose and deer respect the electrobraid fence. Even with the power off, moose cannot break through electrobraid fence.
Actually, when we were installing the fence, a moose tried to get through it, and he stretched the fence a bit, but didn't get through. The guy just happened to be going around with a video camera at the time and took a picture of it.
After I saw this, that how it could hold a great big bull, I was pretty well convinced that we were on the right track.
In fact, moose hate getting shocked. Since the fence was electrified, no moose has tried to muscle it. They stay well clear. The electrobraid wildlife protection system includes an at-grade wildlife crosswalk that allows moose to cross the road in relative safety. It is installed and operating along Route 260 in the mountains of Arizona to control elk. The moose crosswalk is an advanced wildlife detection system.
Our goal is indeed to get animals across the highway safely without encountering the motorist. To accomplish that, we do need to get the motorist to play along and get them to slow down.
It's just like a pedestrian crosswalk in the city. Moose are channeled to a 100-foot gap in the fence where they can cross the road.
The detection system is predicated on very high-resolution infrared cameras on towers that detect animals as they come into a defined detection zone. The detection zone information then is fed into a computer, then analyzes the data utilizing military-grade software, then sends out a radio signal to a series of signs.
The system can provide a video record of every moose that crosses the highway. The system can also provide a record of any accident, including the vehicle's speed before impact. There's more. A moose exit gate will electronically open when the system detects a moose inside the fence.
Well, the bottom line is anytime you fence a highway corridor and you're trying to fence animals out of the highway corridor, you run the risk of animals breaching your fenced area and getting on the wrong side of the fence. So what we've done is we've come up with various designs for mechanisms to get the animals out of the fence corridor. Everything from the automatic opening gates, the engineered ramps, one-way gates, and so forth.
The gate detects the moose within the fence and automatically opens to let it out. When the moose is out, the gate closes, keeping it there. A moose mat is an electric fence laid flat on the ground. It can be used at crosswalks, access roads, or at the ends of fenced sections of highways to discourage moose from walking into fenced sections of the road. Although the shock from an electric fence is painful, it does no harm to people or animals. The shock from an electric fence is certified safe by the Canadian Standards Association, CSA, and by United Laboratories, UL, in the USA. A $5 million commercial liability policy has been approved for Electrobraid and for Electrobraid's clients by one of America's largest insurance companies. This policy can help protect New Brunswick taxpayers against possible liability claims. Remote monitoring helps ensure the fence is always up and running. In fact, there is very little to go wrong with Electrobraid fence.
The fence is set up so that if it gets breached or broken, then there's an alarm system set off so it can be repaired and fixed quickly.
Every spring and fall, I'll walk the whole fence, 5 kilometers on each side. Any little repairs that need to be done, get done. But it's almost maintenance-free. There's not a lot of work to be done on this fence.
The Electrobraid system works well and costs less. Heavy-duty, barrier-type moose fencing can cost up to 5 times as much as Electrobraid fence. Up to 5 Electrobraid moose crosswalks can be built for the cost of a single moose underpass. The potential savings using Electrobraid can make all the difference between protecting a few hotspots and protecting most of New Brunswick's 300 kilometers of highest hazard moose highway. Electrobraid can save lives. Electrobraid can reduce injuries. Electrobraid can help save much of the $70 million that moose vehicle collisions cost New Brunswickers over the past 5 years. And Electrobraid can help get moose across the highways at a reasonable cost and in relative safety. Electrobraid, the moose fencing system that is effective and affordable.
We've used this as a research fence. We've done a lot of research and we've learned a lot over the last 6 years. This fence will actually keep these moose off the highway. We need to put up this fence.